Thank you for listening to the Gateway to the Rockies podcast from Visit Aurora from the rafters of the Stanley Marketplace. This is the show dedicated to telling the stories of Aurora, Colorado. Hi there, I'm Dave, Director of Marketing for Visit Aurora. One of Aurora's most exciting community events, the Havana Street Night Market, returns this Saturday. Our guest is Jay Kim from Bonfire Events, the creative force helping bring these fantastic community gatherings to life along the iconic on Havana Street corridor. Jay, I know you've been super busy, man. What have these last few weeks been like for you?
Well, as we were just talking, Dave, May has been especially brutal. This is kind of the kickoff of our event season, so we've got a lot of irons in the fire right now. But with Night Market coming up, this is one of our favorite events. I think this is going to be ending or a high note ending to the month. So,
for those of us in the community, we're very familiar with Bonfire Events. You do a fantastic job. But for people who may not know you or your story yet, how did you first get into creating community events and then eventually launching Bonfire?
Well, it's kind of an interesting path that took me. So my background is in tech. I was a systems engineer guy for years and years, working for DirecTV and AT&T. And years ago, I got a wild hair one day that I have twin boys. They're men now, but when they were younger, I wanted to teach them about entrepreneurship. Okay. So that kind of led to me doing some research and figuring out what that was going to look like. And I still had the full-time job. I originally wanted to start a food truck, but after looking at the investment cost, I was like, I'm not ready to make that commitment. So we kind of scaled it down, and then settled on a farmer's market business. So that was my first exposure to kind of like outdoor events that wasn't like me shopping at the outdoor events.
Did you see an opportunity there, like a gap in the efficacy of how these events were being ran? Did you say, okay, here's where I can step in and be a support and make these maybe a little better?
Not immediately. Okay. So when we started doing farmers markets, it was just kind of like focused on our little micro business, and it was a great experience. I mean, I look back with very warm memories to those years, but it wasn't until after that. So there was some acquisitions that happened, some mergers with the company I was working with at the time, and my job function had changed, and it went from something that was very dynamic and very interesting to really feeling like I was a cog on a wheel. So the passion sort of disappeared, yeah. And then after that, as happens many times with these like big these big corporation mergers, is that there was like rounds of layoffs that were happening. Yeah. And I was, safe through about 3 of them. And then they actually presented a voluntary layoff package where they kind of sweetened up the severance. And at that time I was just like ready for a change. So I decided to jump on it, and I took it. And at that time, one of the companies I was doing farmers markets with, they were also going through growth and some change, and they were looking for some operations support. So I kind of jumped in to a role that wasn't yet created, and eventually became the operations manager for that company. And I think that was the time where I started really kind of looking at events from a more analytical perspective. What's working, what doesn't, why do people show up to these events, and is there, space for me to kind of do something on my own?
It's interesting. You come from a, systems engineer background, the technical, analytical mind. Obviously, events, there's an art to it. There's a sociology aspect to it, but there's got to be maybe a conversion of your skill sets where you see inefficiencies, where you see opportunities. Can you talk about that a little bit, how the analytic mind meets with the artistic mind when it comes to curating a cool event?
It's funny because even though what I'm doing now for a living is a complete departure from my original career, there is a lot of carryover. So, with events, I think to be a successful event coordinator, being organized and being process driven and looking at analytics, right? So trying to extract data from the events, which also challenging, but when we can, that gives you something to kind of measure off of. And I find myself still to this day utilizing some of the skill set that I developed during my time in tech.
The Havana Street Night Market has quickly become a pillar, one of the most talked about cultural events in Aurora. Talk about the original vision for the night market, but how it's evolved since you've got involved.
Yeah. Well, so that was actually a concept that we came up with. So it's kind of funny. Years ago, I was working on a small project with like a holiday store with Aaron Vega over at the People's Building. So,
Shout out to Aaron. We love Aaron.
Yeah, Aaron's a great guy. So shout out Aaron. And I had ended up connecting, or I received the contact information for Chance Horiuchi. And
shout out to Chance. We love Chance too.
Oh, I love Chance. She is a force to be reckoned with.
Yes.
So I reached out to Chance, and that conversation of me like pitching her on this idea of like, creating an event series on Havana Street turned into like a 2-hour conversation of us kind of, tossing ideas back and forth. And, it was something that she had a vision for as well too. And I had worked with, I think, a previous partner, or had supported an outside partner to see if they could get something off the ground, and it didn't quite work out. So that ended up turning into a beautiful, partnership. So, Havana on Havana Street, they are the main stakeholders of the event. And when we launched it, it was actually the Havana Street Global Market.
Yeah.
Way back in the day. Well, not really way back in the day, but a handful of years back. I think this is our 4th year now, so 3 years back. And it was just a pop-up market that we were doing. It was from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., still not around Lizakaya, which is where we do it now, but in that same Havana Exchange parking lot. It was okay. It was, we brought great vendors together. We had a lot of really cool entertainment. We were doing like dance lessons and outdoor MMA, fitness classes and, cool music. But the problem with that time slot is, one, it's extremely hot in the summer, and we're on, blacktop. So the heat's kind of radiating up, not the most comfortable experience. And then you're competing with a lot of other kind of well-established events during that time slot. So we rocked all the way through year one. And then year two, I came to Chance with the idea of like, let's maybe switch it up a little bit. So at that time, we were doing 2 dates a month. So it was like a biweekly event. And then we decided mutually that let's try this night market concept that we've been, hearing about and seeing, successful night markets in other places. 626 is one of the big ones I think that most people are familiar with. So let's give it a shot and then see how that goes. And it was funny. It was, so we still had 1 date in the day and then 1 date that we were, testing out this night market concept, and immediately the night market concept had more gas. It was just more momentum. It was higher energy. It was more comfortable for the guests. And then it's just kind of snowballed from there.
And it's been a fantastic series, and it's in a great location. On Havana Street is already known as the most diverse culinary corridor in Colorado, but it's been recognized nationally, particularly for the food scene. From your perspective, what makes that stretch of Aurora so special, compared to other food districts around the country?
I think it's the density of businesses that you have there. And a lot of these like immigrant and refugee and minority-owned businesses, they're owner-operated. These aren't like franchises where they have a staff. It's auntie and uncle there. It's grandma and grandpa that are there. And that brings a certain level of authenticity along with it that you don't find in a lot of other places. So yes, the density of interesting businesses, the multicultural element of it. I mean, that stretch of Havana, you've got Korean, you've got African, you've got Latin options out the ears. And yeah, I mean, even just the Havana Street Business Improvement District, from what Chance has told me, they are one of the largest by the amount of businesses that they support. Yeah. And again, it's because of that density.
2,100
businesses. Crazy.
You've touched on this a little bit. One thing that stands out about the night market is the energy. It's palpable. It feels like a community event, how it should feel. It feels like a neighborhood block party almost. The music, the crowds, the food aromas, the mix of cultures, everybody vibing, everybody just having a good time. When people walk into the event for the first time, what experience are you hoping that they have?
I think just that, right? Like, you show up, you get out of your car, you start, maybe smelling some of the food being cooked. You start seeing a little bit of smoke from the grills, and then you start hearing the music. And as you're walking up, you start seeing the people, and the people are of different shades. They're of of different heights and different types of hair and wearing different types of clothes and ages. And it's just a really diverse event. Even though it's a night market, we still make it family friendly. So, it's comfortable for mom and dad and the kiddos and, those without kids. And we really try to make it a vibe for everyone. And I think we've been pretty successful in that.
You talked about how the market starts in the daytime. It's hot. People are uncomfortable. You read the audience, you read the analytics, you go, hey, let's try this at night. You also had an understanding of, people want to experience all the flavors that are available at the night market. And you talked about how, people were buying one dish from a vendor and they'd be full and they're like, man, I wish I could have tried everything else. Thus is born Havana Bites. Tell us about the new program.
Oh, man, we're super excited about Havana Bites. And I guess I would first like to mention how grateful we are to Visit Aurora, who is actually going to be presenting the Havana Bites program for this season. So as you mentioned, Havana Bites was born directly out of guest feedback that we, got at the Havana Street Night Market and also some of our other events as well, too, because we produce events throughout the metro area. When we have food-focused events, people want to try all the things. Mm-hmm. And kind of what was happening was that people would go ahead and commit to a line and they would stand in that line and, they would, grab a bite to eat. But a lot of times that bite to eat wasn't really a bite. It was like a whole entree. And then you got to find a place to sit. And sometimes you got to use utensils. And many times, most of the time, they thoroughly enjoy that bite. But then, they're full afterwards. And they might walk another 20 feet and say, oh, man, I've been wanting to try these guys. Or, oh, look at that. It looks so delicious. So from that feedback, we wanted to implement a program that acknowledged that, guests wanted to, graze throughout the night market and try a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But we also didn't want to structure it in a way that felt, restrictive to vendors. We didn't want to come in and dictate, you can only serve, this size portion, or you can only serve these menu items, like no more entrees. So the way that we decided to implement it for year one is that it's an opt-in program. So vendors that want to participate can. Those who are comfortable with what they're doing now, they don't have to participate. But the vendors who are participating, what we're asking is for them to introduce one or two menu items that are smaller. They're snackable, they're walkable bites, so you can just mob around the night market and not need to look for a table to sit down at, and you're not going to get completely full off of that one. That encourages the grazing behavior. It allows people to experience more of the night market, and hopefully these are also going to be kind of like high volume, high churn items, so that I think at first we'll see this part develop throughout the season, but our hope is that there could almost be a second line for some of these Havana Bites that you could just kind of like, go grab your Havana Bite and not have to commit to the full, 20 deep line that some of these vendors have. So, and then from the guest side, we came up with this kind of fun program. We're really trying to gamify it and encourage people to participate. So there is a passport, like a postcard that people are going to pick up. Shout out to Mimi, who did a killer job.
Yes, she did.
Yep. And there's a QR code. So you scan the QR code. You get to see who's participating, kind of what those bites are going to be. The bites are all going to be kind of with, like under $12. So like $8 to $12 was kind of the price range that we told vendors. So that, also those, stuff is expensive these days. And, if people wanted to be able to experience 3-4 things, let's not make it cost prohibitive. So then, back to the passport. So, they can go around and as they're experiencing Havana Bites, they can, write down those bites, the vendor that they got them from, and then they, post on social media. So to their stories, they tag a couple of accounts, and then they're going to be entered to win some pretty sweet prizes. So there's going to be gift card giveaways and maybe hotel stays and some like really cool grand prizes that I think should be fun for guests to be able to, try to compete for. And then also for, vendors, because on the vendor side, they're also going to get some additional promotional opportunity. We'll have some signage that identifies them as Havana Bites participants. And what we're hoping is that it kind of benefits both sides, right? Our guests, it gives them more options, and then our vendors, because it gives them more points to be able to connect with different guests at the event.
What I love about the program is, not only does it give folks the opportunity to sample, all of these different vendors, but it speaks to the soul of the event, which is the embracing of all of these cultures. It encourages discovery. So, how important was it for you to create something that encourages folks to visit as many vendors as possible?
Well, I think if you look at night markets as a concept, it's that, they first got big in Asia. So there's the night markets and the hawker, stands that are really popular in like Singapore, and those type of businesses, it's different than it is here, right? You don't have necessarily full-on restaurants that are doing a 20 menu item. A lot of these folks, they specialize in like one or two things, and like that's it. Like that's what they're known for. They're known for their noodles, or they're known for their skewers, or whatever else. And there might be other vendors there that specialize in those same things, but everyone has a little bit of a different vibe. Everyone, presents a little bit different of a, flavor profile, more mild, more spicy. So people get their favorites. And that to me is an authentic, night market experience. Is you develop your favorites, you almost develop relationships with these businesses. And that's kind of, again, what we want to implement here. We want to kind of stay true to the spirit, the original spirit of night markets, and then have that as sort of part of the DNA of Havana Street.
You work with an incredible variety of vendors, performers, artists, and food businesses. What's the process for curating a lineup like that? Does Aurora just automatically bring in a diverse selection, or do you go looking to fit certain categories? Are you know what I mean? Are you recruiting specific vendors, or is that just a natural part of the ecosystem of the folks that come and support the night market?
Oh, dude, I would say over like recent years, it's kind of, or the last couple of years, it's sort of turned into that, where people are now reaching out to, with interest in performing or being involved with the night market somehow. So originally, and we still do some of this, is that, so when we first launched, global market and then night market, we were trying to kind of create these themes from month to month to kind of keep things fresh. But that's sort of like loosened up the last couple of seasons. So we still have kind of some general themes. So, for example, May, that we got our night market that's coming up on Saturday. May is also NHPI month, Asian Heritage Month. So we acknowledge that through performances. So we'll have our friends with Guiding Mountain. They're going to be doing a beautiful, lion dance performance. That's always a big hit.
Yeah.
Super popular at any of the events that we do. And then
now at visitaurora.com, you'll see an image from one of those performances right now. That's how much we love that.
Yeah, that's right. Aurora loves their lion dancers. And then we'll have some K-pop entertainment. So Sean Choi, who's also a previous guest on the podcast, he opened up his new spot right there, also in Havana Exchange. So go check out 3456T. But he's also a DJ. So he'll be helping us out with some DJ duties, and then our friends at Connect Pop will be doing some K-pop showcases, and then we actually have a new partnership this year with Aurora Fashion Week. So nice. Aurora Fashion Week is going to be hitting big time in July. So we're going to be doing a little bit of a preview party actually on Friday. So tickets are available online if you guys want to check that out. It's going to be at Lizakaya. And then that is going to lead into a mini fashion show at Night Market. And these are going to be Asian-inspired designs. There's actually a couple of Asian designers that are going to be designing, or they're going to be showcasing some of their designs. So we're excited for that. And then June is Pride Month. So we have some great family-friendly Pride entertainment. So we still have some general themes that we shoot for. So sometimes for those themes, we'll do some proactive outreach, but a lot of times we just get people reaching out to us.
One of the things I love about the night markets every time they come around is that it's very social media friendly. People are filming food, performances, the atmosphere all night long. And, that helps shape perception of what Aurora is, particularly for young people. How much do you think events like this play a role in shaping the perception of a city?
I mean, I would say that it is becoming more relevant and more important, right? Because for, years, I mean, I'm originally from Colombia, but I've lived in, Denver and Aurora for most of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to school here in Aurora, and Aurora hasn't always had the best reputation, and people were almost like ashamed sometimes to claim Aurora. And I feel like that mentality has shifted over the past few years. That like Aurora is now one of the most authentic places that you can go. Right? We're not faking the funk here. We're not trying to create culture. It just exists. It's just part of the city. So so I think from that side, people are more proud to claim Aurora as home. And events like this are just highlights. They're like little exclamation marks in the larger story that represents the city.
The late night market culture feels inspired by cities around the world. I think of the markets that I see in Seoul, in Taipei, in Mexico City. Were there any global markets or cultural experiences that kind of influenced your vision for the Havana Street Night Market? Did you have kind of a blueprint in mind?
I mean, yeah. So some of those that you just mentioned, those are always, solid blueprints to try to, build off of. But here locally, I think the biggest example or point of inspiration is what the crew over at the 626, night market on Cali are doing. Mm-hmm. That one began from nothing. I mean, it was real small, handful of vendors and a few parking lots, and now it's huge. So I'm hoping that, we're already kind of at capacity, along Havana, and we always want to keep the Havana Street Night Market on Havana. I mean, it's in the name,
Right, absolutely.
We can't change it up. So, we're already, looking like what's the next, stage of growth? What is that going to look like? But I think, just night markets here in the U.S., and they're even becoming more common here in Denver, in the local metro area. I've seen more announcements of night markets taking off. And I love to see that, because it's, still something, like I said, it's family friendly. It's a safe place to go, and it's a welcoming space. Come as you are, come hungry, come ready to, jam out and eat some good food, listen to some great music. And I love that.
I should drop the mic right there because you killed it with that outro, but I'm so obsessed with how the sausage is made a little bit. Organizing events at this scale looks fun on the outside. You make it appear seamless. I'm sure there's a lot people don't see. What are some of those challenges behind the scenes when producing an event like the Havana Street Night Market?
Oh, man. Communications, sometimes. I mean, when you're dealing with so many moving parts and so many, vendors, and sometimes vendors where English is not their first language. And, there's a lot of like compliance that, that vendors, need to go through. So there's the gauntlet of, getting your sales tax licenses and, health department licenses if they're food vendors, and securing insurance. So, a lot of times, these type of events, they lend themselves very well because the barrier of entry is lower than opening, a whole brick and mortar right away or a food truck right away. So we get a lot of first-time entrepreneurs, and those first-time entrepreneurs, they need more guidance than someone that's been in the game for a long time. So we try to provide that. We try to be a resource, but it's a heavy lift, especially when you're doing it times 50, times 75, times 100 different vendors. Yeah. So communication is always challenging, staying on top of that, for sure.
I have one final question for you. This is the elevator pitch, but for someone listening who has never been to the night market before, maybe they're a longtime resident, maybe they're visiting Aurora for the first time. What's your pitch for why they need to experience this in person this weekend and throughout the summer?
Oh, man. See, this is the question you should have sent me ahead of time so I could have prepared something for you.
Well, I think you kind of summed it up a few minutes ago. I might just copy and paste that.
There you go. No, that would be good. No, I would say that, come out and experience what, small business, what passionate people are trying to do. Like, the night market, like we're just bringing together all of these like wonderful stories that already kind of exist and bringing them into one place. But really, I think the what's most special is what these vendors and what these performers are bringing and sharing with the community. So come out, experience that. It's all love. It's all smiles. People from all walks of life. Come check us out.
J. Kim, you have a lot of work to do, so
Yes,
I will
I
let
do.
you get back to it. But thank you for all your hard work for this community. Thank you for these fantastic events, and we're excited to come hang out with you at the Havana Street Night Market this weekend.
Same to you, Dave. Thank you very much.
The Havana Street Night Market kicks off this Saturday, May 30th at 6 p.m. at Lisa Kaya. It happens the last Saturday of every month through September. Stop by at Havana and Yale to discover all the vendors and delicious eats, and check out the new Havana Bites series at the market. You can learn more now at visitaurora.com and follow along on social media at On Havana Street, at Visit Aurora CO, and Bonfire Event Co. Visit Aurora is the official destination marketing organization for the city of Aurora, Colorado, and acts as the primary liaison between meeting planners and hotel partners. As Aurora's Convention and Visitors Bureau, Visit Aurora's mission is grounded in showcasing Aurora as a premier destination for meetings, business, and leisure travel. Visit Aurora represents more than 60 hotel properties with 11,500 guest rooms and more than 1 million square feet of meeting space, including Colorado's largest and newest resort, Gaylord Rockies Resort and Convention Center. As Colorado's third largest city, Aurora is located minutes away from Denver International Airport and showcases mountain views, memorable meeting spaces, and 400 plus international eateries that offer a unique experience for each and every visitor. As the gateway to the Rockies, Visit Aurora's role in the community goes beyond marketing the city as a destination. The Visit Aurora team is here to assist you with your Colorado visit, from facilitating your meeting, event, or convention to helping you discover local flavor and attractions. Go beyond the boardroom in Aurora. For more, visit us at visitaurora.com.